Hello everybody, welcome to Shark Time News, the only news show named after a sea creature bigger than us. I'm George Crosby.
And I'm Nico Zachman. On today's show, we've got more totally upbeat news, such as North Korean missiles, a cat being shot, and the shutting down of retailers. But first, let's talk about North Korea.
North Korea is rushing weapons into development. On March 22nd, they launched their fifth missile. This one exploded within seconds. These missiles have landed off the coast of Japan, causing concern in Tokyo and Seoul. But it has not slowed weapons testing. This appears to be another step in North Korea's attempt to build a missile that can reach faraway countries. In response, Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State of the United States, said that military action is, quote, on the table.
In a new segment on our show we like to call Trump Dump, we'll be giving you all major news about the Trump administration in a single block. A major blow was struck to the Republican Party recently as the world's greatest healthcare act, created to replace the Affordable Care Act, has failed. The bill was polling around only 17% favorability at the end, 21 points below the lowest ACA approval rating back in 2013. The bill was noted for being created at the last minute, as well as having many changes to it the night before it was to be voted on. This has landed the party in hot water, with many critics saying that the Republican Party, having disparaged the Affordable Care Act for the past 7 years, should have already had a plan to replace it. The bill has further split an already conflicted Republican Party. Many of its members refused to pass it, citing that a great deal of their constituents would lose health care coverage. It is not yet clear what this failure will mean for Paul Ryan or Donald Trump, both of whom adamantly sought to repeal and replace Obamacare.
Not only that, they staked their entire reputation on it.
All that hype built up to nothing.
The Trump administration is making even more headlines, with President Trump recently signing an executive order to reverse the Obama administration's work to combat climate change. The order presents a broad plan to break down environmental laws put into place under former President Obama. Scott Pruitt, the new head of the Environmental Protection Agency, and who is responsible for implementing this executive order, said, "This is about making sure we have a pro-growth approach to how we do regulation in this country." This statement hints at a conflict of interest, however, as Mr. Pruitt sued the EPA 13 times during his time as Oklahoma Attorney General, and on his LinkedIn page, Pruitt describes himself as a leading activist against the EPA agenda.
The Trump administration provided Homeland Security deportation guidelines to support the new immigration laws. Undocumented workers who break any law are immediately a priority for deportation. Well, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer said the changes were designed to empower agents to enforce laws. In response to the new guidelines, New Hampshire's Cheshire County Sheriff Eli Rivera said in a press release that his office does not have the authority or jurisdiction to enforce them. Therefore, his office will not be seeking a relationship with U.S. immigration agencies. Rivera wants undocumented immigrants to be able to approach the sheriff's office without fearing deportation. Officers of Cheshire County will not ask people about their immigration status or detain them unless a judge issues an order.
Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is starting to invoke the so-called nuclear option should Democrats block Supreme Court nominee Neil Gorsuch's confirmation vote with a filibuster. The nuclear option would alter Senate rules to end a filibuster with a simple majority vote. Current rules require 60 votes. Democratic leader Chuck Schumer has called the vote on the president's nominee inappropriate while the White House is under investigation for possible collusion with the Russian government.
The Associated Press has obtained documents linking Paul Manafort, the former Donald Trump campaign chairman, with a Russian billionaire known to have close ties with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Manafort reportedly was paid $10 million annually by Russian aluminum king Oleg Deripaska to, in his own words, influence politics, business dealings, and news coverage in former Soviet bloc countries and the United States to benefit the Russian government. The disclosure comes just days after FBI Director James Comey confirmed a Bureau investigation into possible Russian influence in the Trump campaign.
Ivanka Trump is the newest member of the Trump family to be a part of her father's administration in the White House. Though not having an official title, she has received an office in the West Wing as well as security clearance and, quote, confidential information. The White House Department of Legal Counsel reports that her role being that of a private consultant, which means that Ivanka will be subjected to the same ethics policies as all employees and will be made to relinquish control of her company for the time being. In an interview with NPR, Ivanka's lawyer, Jamie Gorelick, stated that Ivanka will continue to be the eyes and ears of her father and provide candid advice as she has done all her life. Julian Zeltzer, a political historian at Princeton, disagrees with the choice, asking if the rules on nepotism, on conflict of interest, on other kinds of regulations that employees face were still in place.
The Trump administration recently released its federal budget proposal for 2018, signaling major shifts in education funding. The Department of Education would see cuts of $9.2 billion, a 14% reduction of its total current budget. Several need-based aid programs, such as supplemental educational opportunity grants and federal work study, would collectively be cut by over $1 billion. Teacher training and summer and after-school programs also face similarly deep cuts. The Trump administration seeks to pivot education funding away from public schools and towards school choice programs, increasing funding for school vouchers and charter schools from $500 million annually to $20 billion annually over the course of several years. Congress must approve the new budget and will likely make significant modifications.
Trump's new budget aims to cut funding for public broadcasting system, PBS. Sesame Street, previously a mainstay of PBS, now owned by HBO, has mocked Trump for years. And after this, well, good reason. He's not the first politician to express dislike of PBS. Mitt Romney has also said he would like to shut down PBS. National Public Radio and PBS are funded under the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, or CPB, and make up just 0.1% of the federal budget. Patricia Harrison, president and CEO, said that the budget cut would devastate and ultimately destroy the public media's role in early childhood education. It is unclear whether this is an attack on public broadcasting or Sesame Street for its past actions. Now to look at the Trump budget on a local level, here's James at the Vermont State House.
The state of Vermont is bracing for the Trump administration budget cuts. If approved, the proposed federal budget for 2018 would jeopardize a wide variety of Vermont programs. These programs include food, housing, heating assistance, and grants for the arts, science, and economic development projects, and support for public broadcasting. Only a few programs, such as Veterans Affairs, would see a boost in funding. Vermont Senator Patrick Leahy and Bernie Sanders made clear their opposition to the proposed cuts. It would cause devastating pain to the very people Trump promised to help, Senator Sanders and Leahy has condemned Trump's budget as appalling, unbalanced, and short-sighted. Budget negotiations are underway in Congress and will take several months. Now back to the desk.
Thanks, James. Whew, that was a big Trump dump. Need I say more?
Nope, that about sums it up. Let's see what else has been happening in our region. Here's Michael in Brattleboro, or as we like to say, Mike on the mic.
Thanks, guys. Senator Bernie Sanders visited the town of Brattleboro recently. He came to show his support for a program called Wyndham Grows that connects to local businesses with services, resources, and financing to help build the food agricultural business industry in Wyndham County. The program is designed to strengthen successful industries in the area, as well as tackle economic challenges associated with the closure of a nuclear plant in the town of Vernon. Sanders said at a kickoff event for the program, quote, "Our job is to add value to the food that comes out of the earth to make it healthy and make jobs in the community. That's exactly what Wyndham Grows does," end quote. Back to you, Nico.
Thank you, Michael. The retail apocalypse is upon us. At least, that's what market analysts are calling the mass retail closings across the country, set to occur this year. As e-commerce grows year after year, retail giants like Sears and Macy's are closing a significant portion of their retail locations, 10% or 150 stores total. As these and other retailers begin making the change to a more internet-based business model, analysts warn to expect around 3,500 retail locations to close in the next few months alone. Well, guess I need to spend more time buying my stuff on Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, support local businesses, you know.
Yeah.
In more news from Brattleboro, on March 19th, a Brattleboro police officer on patrol downtown was alerted by a citizen that a cat was acting, quote, distressed and showing signs of being rabid, end quote. Upon investigation, the officer found the cat at the train station by the railroad tracks acting consistently as rabid and then shot it dead. An investigation has been launched into the incident. Since then, a citizen has made a complaint over the officer's conduct during the incident. Now we look north to Putney for the stories from Landmark College.
After 32 years, black and white photography professor Tom Kosiba is retiring. Tom was a founding staff member of Landmark College back in 1985. While at Landmark, he has taught English classes, acted as an advisor, and started the photography program. When the photography program started, class was taught in the basement kitchen of Aiken Hall. Tom is not sure what's next, but hopes to move to Burlington, Vermont with his wife. Professor Kosiba thought after 100 semesters was a good place to end. When asked about what he will miss most about Landmark, Tom said, the students. He says his retirement from Landmark will be bittersweet. We'll miss you, Tom. Also this spring, Landmark holds its next graduation. Here's Andrew to tell us more.
On May 13th, Landmark College is holding its graduation. Approximately 83 students are said to be graduating with their respective degrees on the stage that morning. This will be the third time students are graduating with their bachelor's degrees. 9 students are said to be graduating with their bachelor's degrees, while 8 are said to be graduating with an associate degree in science. The remaining 66 are liberal studies graduates. This is the biggest graduation of Landmark College's history. May 2015 is a close second, though. All of us here at Shark Time News wish all the graduates the best and all the successes with their future endeavors.
Now on to our sports block.
It's baseball season, folks. The Major League Baseball season began on April 2nd. Boston's ace Rick Porcello is set to start versus Pittsburgh's Garrett Cole. These two teams have a long history together, having faced each other in the first World Series in 1903. Red Sox Nation is most excited for off-season acquisition of pitcher Chris Sale. Fans are hopeful the pitching trio of Rick Porcello, David Price, and Chris Sale will be one of baseball's best. The Red Sox are expected to be the winners of the American League this year.
The United States won the World Baseball Classic for the first time in the tournament's history on Wednesday, March 22nd at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, California. The United States beat Puerto Rico 8-0 in the championship game, despite losing to Puerto Rico 6-5 in the group play earlier. The WBC drew controversy when many top American pitchers chose to stay in the MLB spring training rather than play for Team USA in the World's Baseball Classic.
This year marks the end of the 25-year playoff streak for the Detroit Red Wings, the third longest in NHL history. The NHL hockey regular season rapidly coming to a close, only 5 teams have clinched a playoff berth, with several on the cusp of locking up the chance at hockey's ultimate prize, the Stanley Cup. Eastern Conference qualifiers Washington, Columbus, and Pittsburgh of the Metropolitan Division may soon be joined by the Atlantic Division leader Montreal. Top wildcard contender, the New York Rangers, clinched their spot in this playoffs in San Jose. Chicago and Minnesota of the Central Division are in, while Anaheim and Edmonton are on the verge of getting their tickets to the playoffs punched. Boston, Toronto, and Tampa Bay currently in the lead for the battle of the final 3 spots in the East, while Nashville, St. Louis, and Calgary battle for the final spots in the West. The playoffs are scheduled to start April 13th. Go Bruins.
Now on to some of the weirder parts of the news. Stonehenge is one of the most famous and iconic ancient monuments in the world. How it was built and who built it, and why, remain mysterious questions. Stonehenge can be seen on the A303 road, one of the main routes between London and southwest England. This may change because there are plans to replace the existing road with a tunnel that will be a few hundred meters south of Stonehenge. The purpose of the tunnel is to make traffic almost disappear from view at Stonehenge. This new route plan could be controversial because it can possibly damage artifacts that were buried in the area. But there could be artifacts that could unlock new discoveries about Stonehenge. I mean, what's there to discover about Stonehenge? It's basically just a bunch of weird stones just kind of placed on top of one another.
See, what's going to happen is one of them's going to move a quarter of an inch, and then Cthulhu's going to rise up out of the sea and then just punch England off the map. You want Cthulhu? Because that's how we get Cthulhu. We're off to Mars. That's the top priority set for NASA by the new administration. Under the new budget, NASA would only see a drop from $19.3 billion to $19.1 billion. A much smaller cut than most non-defense agencies, the EPA alone is facing a 30% funding cut. Unlike the previous administration, the new budget calls for resources to be shifted from Earth science and climate studies to fund the manned mission to the Red Planet. Already canceling 4 planned Earth study missions, and a planned landing on a passing asteroid may need to be canceled as well. Despite the loss of funding to many departments, the general sentiment around NASA is, it's about time.
A Wheel of Fortune contestant is currently the laughingstock of the internet due to one of the biggest missteps in the show's history. A contestant known only as Kevin was on his way to solving a puzzle, a streetcar named Desire, and it reached a point where only the M was still missing. But instead of an M, he guessed a K. Apparently, instead of a streetcar named Desire, he thought it was a streetcar naked desire. Unfortunately for Kevin, the internet responded howlingly to the incident, which will make this a very hard mistake for him to live down. Clearly, this man hasn't heard of the classic Tennessee Williams play.
In our final story today, reports show that sea otters are ahead of dolphins in using tools. It is believed that ancestors of otters from millions of years ago would float on their back and use rocks to crack open shellfish, a behavior seen often today in the otters off the Californian coast. Researchers believe that this is a natural behavior due to the fact otters in captivity attempt the same actions even if their mothers have not taught them.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Shark Time News. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Nico Zachman.
And I'm George Crosby, and if you're wishing for more snow, then you are messed up.
I go hard. I go hard. If I was off, I would not have gotten this far.
Wants to undocument immigrants. Can we do that one again? The finals for March Madness are here. Landmark Sharks take on the Oregon Ducks in a duel for NCAA basketball dominance. Sharks superstar Ethan McGinnis put up 42 points in the previous game against Michigan. He later said in an interview the reason he had a career game was the whole team sacrificed a live great white shark and ate it raw before the game.
While Trump ran on bringing jobs back to America, since taking office, multiple NFL quarterbacks have found themselves unemployed, including some of the biggest names and highest paid quarterbacks. Jay Cutler and widely rumored Tony Romo could lose his job. Also unemployed is outspoken opponent of Trump, Colin Kaepernick. In addition, there are many ex-starters who are unemployed who may have to settle for underemployment next season. When asked about this, Trump said, "This is what happens when you take the game to Mexico." This is in response to the NFL's announcement that there will be another game in Mexico City this year. Stay and keep it classy, Brattleboro.
God damn it, James.